At the beginning of the film, we are taken to a hectic scene at a prestigious hospital. Many things happen at once as two professional burglars, Thongs and Octopus, sneakily steal expensive medication from the inventory. Meanwhile, the wealthy Lee family enjoys the joyous occasion of its young miss giving birth to a baby boy. Just as the baby is put into the mother's arms, it is snatched up right before her eyes by her ex-boyfriend. The man believes that he must be the baby's father and is willing to waste no effort in order to take the baby for himself. Half of the hospital security force gives chase to the ex-boyfriend, while the other half is trying to catch the burglars. In the process of chasing and running away, the two parties intersect. Trying to escape from the security, the ex-boyfriend is pushed to a dead end and gets flustered. This causes him to fall off the escalator and directly hit the ground many floors below, resulting in his instant death. Thankfully, Thongs manages to catch the baby at the last second, and the baby somehow survives. While the guards are distracted by the chaos, the burglars take this chance to escape. Their small team of thieves is made up of 3 members. The first is known as the landlord. Oh, I hate him already. He is more of a mastermind behind the team and opts to cover the logistics of the robberies more than the hands-on action. Ever since his wife becoming mentally ill because of the death of their son, he has been saving his earnings in a safe without spending anything. However, recently he lost all of his savings in a home burglary. The second member is Octopus. He is fond of showing off his wealth and spends all his money on women in spite of having a wife. He regrets marrying young and is very uncaring of her daily struggles. Even when she reveals that she is pregnant with his child, Octopus does not seem to care. He plainly suggests she abort it and returns back to his new date. Enjoy the date, Octopus. I hope you get muckbanged. The third and the last member is Thongs, a crippling gambling addict who spends his loot in casinos and other bets. After losing all his money, he is still not deterred and even goes as far as to borrow large sums from loan sharks. His father disapproves of his lifestyle, which causes many arguments in the family. With Thongs and Octopus spending all their money and the landlord losing his savings, the 3 men grow increasingly desperate. At this time, a burglary job with a high payment falls into their hands, but the landlord is hesitant to take it because of the risk. However, the other 2 men are overjoyed and rush to take on the job without even hearing what it entails. First, they break into a large mansion by expertly bypassing the security systems. The mansion belongs to none other than the Lee family, whose child they saved in the last burglary. Soon, the 3 men find themselves standing inside of a nursery room. It slowly dawns upon Thongs that they are not here to rob, but to kidnap a baby. The request was made by a triad boss who believes that the baby is his grandson. Thongs is strictly against the idea, as he believes that it is a line that they must not cross. But right now, the 3 of them are in desperate need of some quick cash, so they cannot let this opportunity go. Thongs reluctantly agrees to continue with the kidnapping, and they successfully take the child away. They want to hand the baby over and get the job done with as soon as possible, but luck is not in their favor. On the drive back, they encounter a police roadblock. While trying to escape, their car crashes downhill, with the police hot on their tails. The landlord is trapped in the wreckage, so he urges his teammates to take the baby and run. Seeing as he is not gravely injured, the 2 of them escape while the landlord is arrested. This begins the burglars' bizarre journey of trying to care for the baby they kidnapped. As expected, Thongs and Octopus have no idea how to raise a child, so even the duration of a few days is filled with many hurdles. They cannot get the baby to stop crying, which results in an impromptu singing session where the men perform ridiculous dance moves. Surprisingly, this works, and they breathe a sigh of relief. But that is not all. They must now feed the baby, change his dirty diapers, and figure out how to keep him entertained. They clumsily prepare a bottle of baby formula and feed the baby while sneaking in some sips of their own. The most hazardous task proves to be the diaper changing. They struggle to deal with the stench. All the while, the baby happily laughs at their faces. After a few stressful days, they stumble upon a parenting class hosted by a nurse, which greatly helps them to take proper care of the baby. She does her best to teach them while lending them a hand when needed. Slowly, they learn things like how to maintain the right temperature of the baby formula and what are the best ways to put him to sleep. A few weeks pass before they realize that they genuinely enjoy taking care of the baby, and his presence makes them want to become better people. When Thongs takes the baby along with him for his usual gambling session, transactions, he notices that his heart has started feeling guilty about gambling. To his own surprise, he vows to never set foot inside the gambling den again. Similarly, Octopus also begins to regret his harsh treatment of his wife. Every time he looks at the infant, he is reminded of how his own wife is pregnant and contemplates becoming a father. On the other side, the Triad boss is angered to a great degree, so much so that he locks a man inside a giant cold chamber and lets him freeze to death. Angered that he could not find where his grandson is, he then orders another subordinate to bring the baby to him at once. The gangsters immediately get to work, afraid of being frozen to death. Soon, they find Thongs attending a parenting class along with Octopus. The men think quickly and hand over the baby to the nurse, while they go out to confront the gangsters. The nurse, on the other hand, rushes to Thongs' home for the baby's safety. The two go against several gangsters, but Thongs and Octopus are experienced fighters. With teamwork and sharp thinking, they manage to evade the gangsters and rush home. Somewhere else, the nurse enters the apartment and is met with loan sharks who are there to collect debt that Thongs owes them. They push their way in and decide to wait for him to arrive. At the same time, Octopus's wife also comes knocking. Not knowing what to do, the nurse invites her in. This starts a massive misunderstanding, as she mistakes the nurse as Octopus's mistress and the baby as his child. Meanwhile, on the streets below the apartment, Thongs is stopped by the police officer involved in solving the kidnapping case. Thongs goes to great lengths in an attempt to deter the policeman from following them home, but to no avail. When he finally reaches home, he witnesses the shocking sight of the debt collectors, gangsters, and Octopus's wife waiting for him. Still, he keeps his cool and tries to distract the officer, while the gangsters and Octopus fight for the baby. One of the gangsters tries to steal the baby by setting him inside a basket and pulling it up to the roof, but Octopus is quick to slip out of the window to stop the basket. After a short tug of war, he finally manages to untie the rope and save the baby. But because of all this ruckus, the policeman grows aware of the situation. This results in another messy affair of the policeman fighting to arrest Thongs, while Thongs fights off the officer along with the gangsters. After some back and forth, he manages to escape out the window and joins Octopus. The two make a run for it, but in the process, the baby's stroller gets hooked to a military vehicle by mistake. The large truck drives away at full speed, towing along the stroller while the two panic. Thongs quickly hijacks a car to chase the truck, while Octopus grabs a lift on a scooter. Misunderstanding them as robbers, the truck driver increases his speed and tries to shake them off. After a painstaking amount of effort, Octopus finally manages to get a hold of the stroller, but right then, the gangsters suddenly join the run. They hit Thongs' car, resulting in Octopus falling off, and as revenge, Thongs also hits their car. This causes a domino effect of several accidents and crashes on the highway. Amidst the chaos, Thongs retrieves the baby at last and runs to seek shelter in his own home. As if on cue, the landlord is released from the police station. As soon as he steps out of the building, he is captured and taken to the Triad boss, who demands that he return the baby. The boss even raises the price to $30 million, making the already willing landlord overjoyed. He quickly meets up with Thongs and Octopus and starts hatching a plan to hand over the baby to the Triad boss. But to his surprise, he notices that his teammates are reluctant. However, they soon realize that they are in no position to refuse the offer. Thongs' sickly father paid off all his debts using the family savings, leaving Thongs with a heavy feeling of guilt. And Octopus also wants to give his wife a better life, where she does not have to struggle to make ends meet. So, the two of them desperately need the money. A while later, the three men meet up with the gangsters to exchange the baby in return for the suitcases full of cash. It is difficult to let go of the child when they have grown so attached to him, but still they cannot help but watch as the gangsters take him away. The doctors who are on standby quickly draw the baby's blood for a DNA test, resulting in him crying pitifully from the pain. No amount of coaxing from the strangers can make him calm down, as he keeps staring at Thongs and Octopus, clearly reluctant to part. The two men, overcome by their feelings for the baby, throw away the last bit of hesitation. They rush after the gangsters and steal the baby back with no effort. While the landlord runs away with the money, Octopus and Thongs run to hide inside the boss's private amusement park. Through Ferris wheels and roller coasters, they rush head-on to many dangers, all in order to protect the child from the gangsters, who are relentlessly pursuing them. At last, Thongs somehow outruns them and is seconds away from escaping when the gangsters manage to capture Octopus. On being threatened with his teammate's life, Thongs has no choice but to surrender the child to the Triad boss. Next, they are brought to the boss and silently watch as he gently cradles the baby in his arms. Even though the boss might turn out to be the baby's grandfather, Thongs is entirely against him kidnapping the baby from his mother. All this time, the boss has not even considered the possibility of the baby not being his biological grandchild. But, to his utter shock, the DNA test results mention the unthinkable. The baby is not actually his grandchild. In a daze, he stumbles to the freezing chamber, where he has carefully preserved the dead body of his son and places the baby next to him. Driven mad by the shock, he then goes away to take his medication, leaving the baby inside the freezer. In a great hurry to save the baby, Thongs and Octopus rush to the chamber, but are thrown off by the gangsters. Soon they are overpowered and caught by the gangsters, but their will is stronger than any of their enemies. Overturning their situation, they break free and manage to get inside the chamber, but it ends up closing itself behind them. Now trapped inside the freezer with no way out, they notice that the baby has stopped crying, and he is now unconscious. But there is no way to open the door from the inside. Why is that anyway? They should really change that about these. In a desperate attempt to warm up the baby, they take off their jackets to wrap him around and huddle close together, but nothing seems to be working. Just when they are about to lose hope, the landlord appears outside the freezer with the police, but the chamber is locked with a very complex lock system. Landlord, being an expert lockpicker, orders everyone to cease all the noise and carefully concentrates on the sound that the lock makes. With great effort, he manages to figure out the combination and opens the door. However, it is not time for celebration, as the baby has stopped breathing and is turning red. This movie's goofy, but now it's dark. Thongs and Octopus frantically rush outside, but soon realize that they are too far from any hospital, and the only car in the garage is broken. While Thongs miserably tries to get the baby to breathe, he suddenly gets a risky idea. With the help of Octopus, he quickly makes a makeshift defibrillator by hooking the car batteries with some wires and passing the electricity to his arms. Suffering through the intense pain, he uses his hands to pass the electricity to the baby's chest in an attempt to revive his consciousness. But even after several painful tries, they are not successful. Soon, the police and the ambulance reach the scene and take the baby away, while the men are left to chase after the ambulance with great desperation. Unknown to them, their struggle is a success, and the baby's condition has stabilized. In the following scene, the police swiftly catch the trio of burglars along with the Triad boss and all his minions. The scene skips to a few months later, where the three men are in jail. However, they feel that they are now better men than they ever were. Their relationship with their families is also steadily growing day by day. The movie ends on a visiting day, where the Lee family comes to visit them along with the baby. As a token of appreciation for saving the baby's life, Thongs, Octopus, and the landlord are offered jobs by the family, to which they all gladly agree. And so, a new chapter of their lives as lawful men begins. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.